it's not so much a question and answer thing here. I think we wanted it to open up into a sort of conversation, and there are a few people here that, you know, would be great to, if they're willing to contribute, because I know they've got great stories and etc. Right. Right. One of the people I actually invited and was very happy when she said she would come down from Liverpool, all the way from Liverpool, is Janet Price, and also Anne Grindle, and I don't know if you guys know about the DaDaFest, and so she's part of that as well, and she's done some great work about disability and sexuality, and if you want to continue about what we've been talking about, or bring in your own experiences or your own thoughts, that'd be great, Janet.
Yeah. Am I all right here, or am I sort of, would it be better if I held it? What's... Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right. So where's best? If I go over here and then... Yeah, a bit further back. Right. Okay, well, thanks very much for a start. I've been eyeing Sisters of Frida online for quite a while, thinking, feminists, disabled feminists, let me at them. So it's really lovely to be here. I became disabled about 25 years ago now, and I've been an active political feminist lesbian. And for me, to suddenly feel like I'd lost a whole community, which was what happened. So many people disappeared from my life at that time. And I'd also moved cities, so I was hunting around for things to do. And actually what I fell across was not other disabled feminists, but disabled representation and the politics behind it. And that was where I got involved in DaDaFest, because one of the things that has struck me more and more as I've been involved with DaDaFest, the Disability and Deaf Arts Festival, currently about to launch our festival for this year in 3-4 days' time. Check out online, www.dadafest.co.uk, and we're streaming some stuff, but there's going to be a lot of really good stuff online. So anyway, that's the politics of the advertising. What it has made me realise, being part of an organisation where access is key and representation of disabled and deaf people's lives as they choose to represent them, whether it's through plays, through poetry, through films, through statues. And we're very clear that we're not trying through DaDaFest, this isn't about community-based art, which has its place and is really important, and we support that too. But this is about quality representation that tells people how we want to be seen as disabled people. And so it's really exciting work, and it's developing more and more all the time. I know you got to see a lot during the Paralympics down in London. There was some really good work going on and being shown here at that time. Well, we get a big festival of it every 2 years in Liverpool, and it's wonderful. And it's going national, and we're now going global. So we have ambitions. And one of the things that, and that international ambition has, I think, has been really close to my heart, because a bit like Ruth, I've always been internationalist. I mean, since I got politics, politics taught me, I was so ineffably at the time middle class and abled, and it was about recognising the privilege of that, and about, the struggles of other people and the ways in which I could be committed to working alongside them and the battles they were fighting. And one of the real joys of my life is that I've been able to be very, very close to and work alongside disabled feminists and in India, and non-disabled feminists, and watch the interactions and the issues that they've been fighting together, and how the work that has gone on between disabled and non-disabled feminists in India has been something that's taught me a lot about the way that movements can start to come together and share issues. There's no sense in which they would say it's perfect, but there's been a lot of lessons that they've tried to move and work with together. And now the organisation I've had the luck to work a lot with is a feminist human rights and sexual rights organisation, or CREA, C-R-E-A. And they do a lot of training of young activists. They do a lot of political representation and challenging the forms of political representation around sexuality. And they've also started thinking increasingly a lot around disability, and I've been working with them for 10, 12 years now, both doing training and supporting the training of other young Indian activists so that they can go out and do similar sorts of work. So it's increasingly a very intersectional organisation. And one of I think the greatest events that they ever held was a violence against women conference. And they held it up in Nepal, and they held it in Nepal because it was a South Asian conference, and they wanted somewhere that would have access for women using wheelchairs. And none of the big hotels had more than one room. So in Nepal, they found a hotel that was just in the process of being built. So Geeta, who heads CREA and who is a force to be reckoned with, went up to Nepal and did this deal with them that they would bring the conference there if they built another 4 rooms that were going to have wheelchair access. And so they did. So you suddenly got this incredibly good, accessible hotel in Nepal. And it's about using those moments. And that meeting had disabled women, lesbians, trans women, HIV, women with HIV or living with HIV. I can't remember, and sex workers. And there was conversations going on around it that were quite extraordinary, disabled women for whom it was their first time that they'd ever actually been able to fly somewhere, sitting next to a sex worker and the sex worker going, "Oh, I didn't know disabled women had sex," and the sex worker, and these sorts of, if I've never sat next to a sex worker before, what's life like for you? So conversations happening that just don't happen in other places, and bringing together groups of people for whom the experience of violence was a common one. And they'd backed the conference up with some serious research with these groups beforehand, so that there was a lot of participatory research that fed into it, and then there was the actual experience of bringing together people and letting them have those exchanges with each other, and to share those moments, to actually really talk to each other. And it seems to me that there's an ambition there that I think we need to claim, and to really look at what is being done, the types of things that can be done if we really put some energy, some power, some thought, just the energies behind all the movements that are here this evening. There's all sorts of magical things can come out of it. And just looking at the sorts of things that have emerged over the years from CREA trainings with activists around disability, a woman who was a feminist who did a lot of work around training around sexual and reproductive rights and anti-violence work, she had some contact with a group of deaf women, and they set up. So she went in and she shared with them all of her knowledge that she'd gained over years of working in feminism. And that group of deaf women taught her an awful lot about what being a deaf woman and facing violence was like. But she also learned a lot about how she needed to change her forms of presentation so that they were more accessible to a non-hearing audience, for example, the sorts of things she needed to be aware of. And that, we need to be aware of in an audience like this, because it's not simply the women who are deaf and use sign. It's the women who use hearing aids or whose hearing is dropping. There's a whole series of protocols we have to get our heads around. And I've been trained by the best, I reckon, in the business, because DaDaFest are just so on the ball about it. But it's crucial, and I think we have to be able to admit our ignorance and learn about what we need to do about access, because we're all of us still doing it so badly. And this is not getting at you, Eleanor. It's the problems of people not recognising the money that we need to do this properly, and all of the things that flow from that. So just to finish the story about the group of deaf women, they have now been doing trainings around violence against deaf women, which is of horrendous proportions, as I think it is around most of the world, including in this country. But they've gone out across through India, and you meet them and they're so delighted, because they say, we're being invited not only to North India and South India, but they wrote to us from a group in Pakistan wrote to us the other day, and there's a group in Nepal want us to go and visit. And those sort of South Asian links that have built up and are very strong.